All right. Well, welcome. I think we'll get started because we have a very packed agenda today. And I would like to thank a whole host of people who are involved in this AI in Healthcare India group. It primarily is a WhatsApp group. If I may request, I think somebody is not on mute. Please mute your line so that we don't hear an echo. To give you a background, a couple of years ago, few of us got together to form this WhatsApp group, and it has been an amazing experience. Sharing a lot of content, sharing a lot of thoughts, sharing a lot of ideas, and finally, it's come to fruition where, because of the COVID pandemic, one positive thing that we are able to connect virtually and have an interesting panel over here. So I'm not going to take too much of time, but I did want to introduce certain key concepts about this group and some of the work that has been done over here. So this group primarily resides on WhatsApp, and here is some information. As you can see, it has currently got 257 very active participants. As you note on the left side at the bottom, there are a whole host of media links and documents that have been shared in this group. And it's a very, very active and very enthusiastic group. So it's very exciting to have us join virtually over here. People have been sharing very interesting content. Here is some of the recent ones.
661-380.
Whether it is about certain articles that have been published by the group members, or it has been about some of the meetings that are happening. This has been a great forum to exchange information and content related to AI in healthcare. And I'm thankful to Manish Sharma, who has a great blog with a lot of content over there. Would encourage you to view that. And of course, Dr. Sandeep Reddy, who has been phenomenal in leading this group. And if you really want to know more about all his work, I would say, read his book, which is in print now and has contributions from many of the members who are part of this AI in healthcare group. A little bit about BrainX Community, similar to the group. We formed this 2 years ago to promote AI in healthcare education. This session is devoted to the AI in healthcare group. So the December session is devoted to that. As I said, started 2 years ago, is a very active 2,500 plus member community, international members, a few different content areas. There is a Connect online session where all the meetings and their recordings are available. We have a YouTube channel where you can view that, and a very active LinkedIn group. And many of the members from this AI and healthcare group are present there. There is a Learn section where you'll find a lot of interesting content, a data section where there is a lot of open source data available. And then it has supported transcontinental collaboration, working with a lot of AI in healthcare India group members over the last many years. Some more information, and with that, I'm going to hand it over to Manish Sharma to moderate the future session. But thank you very much for joining us. If you're not speaking, if you're getting your chai ready, please mute your phone so that or your device so that others can enjoy the sessions too. With that, over to Manish.
Thank you, Dr. Piyush, and welcome everybody to this particular panel discussion. In this section of the panel, we are going to be having our experts discuss about the various two aspects, basically. We're going to have Dr. Thanga and Dr. Gogia, who's going to be talking about the need of paper within healthcare and how that is beneficial and can be taken up ahead. And then we're going to have Dr. Bhattacharya and Dr. Sid, who is going to be talking about for AI. And I'll request the panelists to give a brief intro about themselves before they begin. And then each one of this experts can talk about their aspects that they would like to indicate as to why a particular site that they are taking and how that can enable digital health within India. So over to you, Dr. Thanga.
Thanga, you are muted, and I believe there's still some background noise.
Yeah, I think everybody else can go on mute. Can you hear me now? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, Thanga, you are.
Okay. So good. We are live coast to coast, all the way from the US to Middle East, India, Australia, New Zealand. Wonderful initiative, a great international panel. And since Dr. Sandeep Reddy, the main person who started this group and brought us all together, is in Australia, I thought I'll put on my war paint. So we are ready for the battle. So the fight was, this group is a digital health group. So we clearly split into two groups. One group safer is the future. So though I've spent 15 years of my life selling digital health to people, I'm going to try and fight for paper today. And with me is Dr. S.B. Gogia. I will let him introduce himself.
Right now or later?
I'm facing my brother healthcare.
Huh?
After me.
Go ahead, please.
I'll just finish off my introduction. Yeah. So I'll stop there. I'm a medical doctor. I'm an emergency physician by training, trained in health informatics from England. I was the clinical director of GE Healthcare. But today I'm going to talk for paper. Thank you. Gogia ji, aapka.
Thank you, Dr. Thanga. Yeah, I didn't expect that so fast. Anyway, I'm Gogia. I'm a surgeon from AIMS, practicing surgeries in the last 35 years. So I delved into software and I've made my own EMR. And I also run an NGO called Sathi, which does telehealth support for rural communities. And I'll be speaking for the motion that we need paper at least. To what extent? And of course, I do have a very strong views against too much of AI at least in the current world. Thank you.
Dr. SBB.
Good evening, good morning, whichever time of the day. Welcome. Bhattacharya. I'm a family physician.
In that house.
Could everybody else mute
No,
themselves,
they were now.
please?
That doesn't mean that it's okay.
Everybody's been tested.
Hello.
Those who were now quarantined and overweight, post 17 days. And that family is still not attending.
Oh dear. Vivek, your
Yes.
please mute. Please mute.
Can mute everybody.
I believe Zoom doesn't have a host muting functionality. There should be. Anyway, so to carry on, I'm a family physician, although I practice very little these days. I'm basically a health informatics a consultant, and I design EHRs, but my main interest is clinical data analytics. Thank you.
Dr. Sid. Is Dr. Singh there?
Yes, he's there. I asked, how's the Josh? And he said, hi, sir. So he should be there.
Sir, if you could unmute and then introduce yourself, please.
Sir, I'm not talking this time. I just joined as a guest.
Dr. Vivek, if you could mute yourself, please.
I thought I was already muted.
Just request once more.
Yeah, sorry.
Not a problem. Thank you. Thank you. So I'll request Dr. Sandeep to please take in the place for Dr. Singh till he joins and speak against the motion, so to speak, from an AI perspective. Dr. Sandeep.
Sure.
Great. So proceeding on, Dr. Thanga, I'll request you to please start the discussion discussing why you would insist on, the reason for the wall paint, assuming the India-Australia match going on. And I was really amazed to see that full Josh. And I can understand, and coming from you, I can, having followed your work, so please.
Sure, Manish. Good. I think the fight is not very, balanced. So to start with, I think my war paint has scared one of my opponents away. And we have Sandeep joining in now. Now I'm worried.
You should be fine, Dr. Prabhu.
Anyway, Dr. Gogia, let's not lose. Okay, we are fighting today and we are winning these guys, right? So here I go. It's 5:45. I have 5 minutes, so I'll talk up to 5:48 or 5:50. Okay. We started out documenting clinical work or medical work as it is on caves when we were treating our fellow brothers and sisters when we were living in caves. Yeah. So this is the origin of medical records as such. And from scribbling with charcoal on the cave, we have gone on to write on pieces of parchment, paper, leather, sand, whatnot, and then we came to paper. Now, paper has been with us for a very, very long time. I don't know the full history, but what we all believe is paper comes from China. There is a version which says that paper also comes from the papyrus, which is from Egypt, which is a tall grass which is grown and then it is dried, and the Egyptians used to write on that. That is 3500 BC, which is about 5500 years ago. So what I'm trying to say here is we have been writing on paper for 5500 years, and to talk after me are arguing that something which came up 50 years or maximum 100 years ago is going to replace that technology. I strongly oppose that concept just because only when we try to replace something, we realize how important. Take the case of the heart. When the first cardiac transplant was done by Dr. Christian Barnard, we thought the heart was only pumping blood. When we took out the heart, we came to know that it's not only pumping blood, it's also producing an hormone called ANF. Similarly, when we tried to replace the kidney, the original thinking was kidney is only filtering the blood. But now we know that kidney has so many other functions which, to compensate, if you put a machine by the side of the patient, the dialysis machine is as big as a washing machine. So when we try to take out paper from the system, this is exactly what happens. What I would do when I examine my patient, as I said, I'm a ER physician. I'll quickly examine my patient, come to a differential diagnosis, order a few tests, and write maximum half a page of notes for my patient. So all the processing happens every day. I process everything and I capture only a little bit of what I need to record, and that is my record. And this is on paper. Now, if any system, you either have an option of typing in free text or you have an option of picking from checkboxes. So it's a very painful process, because of which we doctors fight tooth and nail opposing healthcare IT. So when people say, when customers ask, can I convert my department and make it fully digital? Can I go paperless? I have only one answer for them. When you board your aircraft, you can pay for it, but you have to produce an electronic boarding card. You have to take a printout and show it to the security guy. If you go to the bank, you book your fixed deposit, the final one which you sign and seal is on date. All these things finally end in a paper document. So the paper document is the only hard copy which will remain. None of these digital technologies remain. So with that, my short answer is less paper, yes, possible. Completely paperless, I'm sorry to say, it will never happen. With that, I will end my pitch, my first salvo to my opponents.
Thank you, Dr. Thanga. As passionate as ever, knowing you being a thorough digital health evangelist and coming up with this particular set of points, I'll take it straight over to the gentleman down under, who is sorry, Dr. Thanga.
Sandeep,
Are you?
Dr. Sandeep.
I can see Dr. Thanga is talking, but he's muted.
I think he's talking to someone else now. Maybe. Hand it over to.
Go on, yeah. I was just sipping a cup of tea. Go on. I'm not talking to anybody.
Okay. Sorry about that. Dr. Sandeep, over to you.
All right. So firstly, I must admit, I wasn't prepared for this debate, but I'll do my best in advocating for digital health and artificial intelligence. I don't take a binary view that paper is superior to AI or AI is superior to paper. Where I come from is democratization of healthcare. Currently, we face an unprecedented challenge in the healthcare system. We have workforce shortages. We have training medical doctors takes a lot of time. And then we have geographical and financial barriers to accessing healthcare. We know from studies there are innumerable number of medical errors across the world. So if we take a position that we are going to stick to what has been a legacy thing just because it's been around for a long time, I think that's a fallacy. That's a very weak position to take. So my perspective is, yes, there will be continuation of paper-based records, but we also have to be open to the solutions that can mitigate the problems that we currently have. So with that, I conclude my initial summarization or where I stand with in terms of where digital health and artificial intelligence comes into play in this current healthcare system.
Thank you, Dr. Sandeep. Dr. Gogia, over to you.
Thank you, Manish. Thank you, Thanga, for bringing up the topic, and Sandeep for trying, I would say, because I'm from the other side, so I have to say, be my side. So trying to, bring the pinch of the sails of Thanga. But, first of all, I mean, what he has said, I mean, I have to largely agree with him. So he has stolen the wins from my sails. Anyway, first thing, that the paper is not going to disappear. And there was a cartoon long back in an IMF forum, which we posted that the day we have no paper is when my bathroom is in life is when my bathroom is without paper, that way. So uh, overall, but I think that not only is that signing off, we have to. There are a lot of problems within digitization, and now I will come specifically to the AI perspective because that is also supposed to be part of it. Uh, as Dr. Thanga said, we have taken so many years from papyrus, we've been taking so many years, and it is not going to go a very long way. Change has been occurring in the last few years, decades or so, as far as IT is coming, it is accelerating more and more. And that means that we're going to change very fast. But please keep in mind that any fast change is what is called revolutionary. And what actually sustains is evolution. Revolutions are destructive. We don't know what they bring out. And already when you look at the AI perspective, too much digitization, we know what has happened to the Boeing aircraft, which went haywire and killed people. In healthcare, it is going to be tremendous. It has already occurred with robotics. Robots have killed people. The thing that is happening now is that if things go wrong, we go for AI, we go for digitization. That's the ultimate goal for this thing. I'm not talking about paper versus EMR round. I'm only going to talk about AI when the argument comes into between AI, digitization paper will come back to that. But I'll just stop this thing short that we have to really step back and see how much AI is going to evolve. Is it going to heal people? And also, and that is a very, very big prospect that is coming up, is what is the potential of its misuse? And that is huge. We do know that robots can kill people. And the worst part is, robots can kill people not only this thing, but willfully using AI. We have drones which can be activated, which can really kill. The misuse is tremendous. And the few people, we already know, it is not only the killing which is willful, also how AI, when it takes off, it just ignores what the human mind wants. Just look at it today. This thing, I had to bring down the hopes a little. Manish sent a note to everybody that this is the invite for today's meeting. And the invite had two links. One was for Google Meet. And it has happened with me. People have, that's why I warned him and it was corrected. So this is what AI does. It has been manipulated by Google that Zoom meeting means that I can push in my Google also. It is very, very serious. And I would just stop short at this, that we have to think of the possible adverse consequences and not try to overrun it, go very, very slowly. And I agree with Thanga that let's not even try to make it AI as a replacement till we are 100% sure. Healthcare is about life and death, and we have to take care of life. Thank
you. Thank you, Dr. Gogia. And as passionate as ever that I have known you to be. And I just saw a comment from Dr. Piyush saying paper 1, EMR 0. So I will go to the next evangelist who I know, Dr. Bhattacharya. And he's been a real evangelist from a snowbed city perspective, a lot of learnings that I've had over the years from him. Now over to you, sir, to, pull one back for the EMR.
Yes, I'll pull one back. I will not pull any punches either. So what I have heard till now is all rhetoric. Change nothing, change slow, change not. Since electricity is problematic, let's keep things as they are. Let the candles burn. Doesn't matter. So cars kill people. So don't use them. You better go on foot. It reminds me of late 18th century, 19th century London, when cars were introduced, they had somebody playing the bugle who had to walk in front of it, and the car used to follow them because it could potentially kill people. Look where we are now. So no progress. Let's keep things as they are, and that is the best way forward. They are not going to be that useful, and since robots are so dangerous, as one of my adversaries very eloquently put, that they can kill people, etc., etc. But may I remind him, and he's a surgeon, may I remind him that robots do cause less trauma. It has been now proven. There are equipments already available where they are doing venipuncture and other tissue collections. In fact, they are doing surgeries, and they are able to do a much better job than a human being can do. And lastly, let us come to AI, artificial intelligence. Look, artificial intelligence is a whole different topic. So somehow shifting focus to it would require a paradigm shift in this whole discussion. But let me just touch upon it. It definitely helps us to deliver better care. And that is what we are trying to do. If somebody is thinking that an AI will come and some magically the doctors would all melt away, although I do believe some doctors might like it because the COVID situation is causing a lot of deaths. So, and they are the ones who are having the highest rates world over. So I am not too sure whether AI doesn't have a place. But what about, how do you do the AI without data? And where do you get the data from? Paper? Is somebody serious in this day and age that we can do with data from paper and expect AI to deliver magic? No, no. And we do know that AI can really help. So therefore, I would finish off my opening salvo with these few points and see what the others have to say about all this. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bhattacharya. So now that we've got, I think so we've kind of arrived at equal score now. Thank Dr. Piyush for that, keeping the score for us. Back to you, Dr. Thanga. So what do you have to say from the perspective of papers, and a brief, a quick note to everybody. Believe you me, all the 4 panelists are actually digital health evangelists, but we are having this discussion purely to move or make a nudge the nation, as I was trying to say in some of the notes that I was sharing with the group. So over to you, Dr. Thanga.
Thank you, Manish. Yes, I think the whole idea of having this encounter this kind of a situation when we are at the customer side, because on the customer side, we do have strong proponents of status quo, as Dr. SBB mentioned, continue to burn the candle types. And there are the strong supporters of, let's go to Mars and let's go to Andromeda galaxy types. So a good implementation in the two extremes and walk the middle path that Buddha taught us. So coming back to the point that we were making, paper is not going anywhere, right? Instead of making it a this or that, a binary 0 or 1, we need to accept the fact that these two are going to coexist. And digital as wards into the hospital, into the OPDs, into the lab, into all clinical settings, because the paper forms converted are continued in the department. This is clearly wrong. Digital is a new way of working. Capture once, use multiple times. Demographics used to be captured on paper, about 10 to 11 investigations in the emergency, and you have to write out these 10 to 11 investigations by hand, name, age, sex, MRN number, unit number, so you waste a lot of time in doing that. If you take it digitally, this process can be sorted out because you can record it once, and you can even allow the patient to, fill this form outside on an app, and you can just input it directly into the electronic medical record. So, or the digital way of doing is better than paper, because I don't believe that is possible. What I'm saying is you may use the newfound techniques, and you may use digital technology, but in the end, when the patient goes out, you have to print a discharge summary and give it to him in his hand. I'll stop there.
Dr. Sandeep?
Yeah, sure. So it may not be that we do not have replacement of paper with artificial intelligence, but we may have replacement of paper with digital paper. And the example you cited, Dr. Prabhu, about patient requiring an handover or a discharge summary, it could be done in form of a text message or other applications. So the other misconception that I want to clear here is artificial general intelligence is a science fiction. We are not going to have any replacement of any function by human doctors. Maybe aspects of what radiologists do, dermatologists do, ophthalmologists do could be, but a complete replacement of doctors is not going to happen anytime soon. So I don't want to dwell into the mathematical reasons and the computational reasons for that, but that's many years away. So what we are talking about is the current narrow artificial intelligence or the narrow digital health applications. How do they work in tandem with human doctors? And that's what we need to dwell on rather than talk about one replacing the other. And I think that sort of sets the scene and also gives my perspective as how I envision things will work. So nowadays we are talking about human in the loop in terms of artificial intelligence systems or smart systems. And if we focus on that, then we would not really have to get into this kind of debates, but talk about how artificial intelligence can be augmented intelligence. It's not so much an issue in the Indian context, but in the United States, people are talking about electronic medical record, a physician burnout. That's mainly because electronic medical records were not constructed to keep in mind the clinical aspects, but more for reimbursement purposes. So that's why you would definitely have a biased perspective coming from the US context. But in terms of India itself, we're talking about a huge healthcare system where people are not, the data is not being collated in an appropriate fashion. People are not able to follow up. There's no longitudinal care. It's episodic care. I really, really doubt if paper can be an ongoing solution to address that.
Thank you, Dr. Sandeep. Over to you, Dr. Gogia.
Thank you. I'm hearing now that EMR is flying back and winning over us. Very interesting. Yeah, first of all, I never took it as this thing that is, we are going to get rid of EMR, as Thanga said. We're not going to get rid of paper, neither of EMR. Our main focus right now is at the current day and age, is paper better than EMR? Obviously, it is a matter of both, first of all. First of all, before I come to those points, I'd just like to answer two of this thing which were pointed points which are pointed out by SPB. One was that we should not go in cars because cars can kill. That is not the issue. The issue that we are trying to say is, do automated systems in cars kill more or less? He says they kill less. Fair enough. But when they kill, who is responsible? And can it be deliberately driven towards a particular site? We have to solve these issues. When we are looking at AI coming in and all that, there are, AI and computer systems depend on many, many more sensors. They've got GPS, they've got, gyroscopes. Huge number of things are possible when IT systems to do things better, which the humans don't have. But the thing that humans have, till AI gets those things, let us not think of, we have empathy, we have a particular this thing of feeling pain. All these things have to come in if you want things to happen in a proper fashion. As I again said, healthcare is sensitive. Second point which I want to talk about, again, which was pointed out as SPA, is that data. How do you get data? We're not saying we don't need data. Data is going to be used for AI, but when we say data, it has to be accurate, correct data. What the data that comes on paper and that is, signed in those things, it is a permanent record. Data in the virtual space can disappear in a wisp, can be stolen, manipulated later, after. We say that we are trying to build in the methods to stop it from being this thing. That's because the possibility of this being manipulated, it can be hacked. Keep that in mind before we really go into pure data and things. And definitely we have to look at, get the benefits of paper. Don't throw the baby with the bathwater just because we have got a new game in town and a new toy to play with. That toy is going to be dangerous. Thank you.
Very well said, sir. Dr. Bhattacharya.
So now we have shifted from arguing on paper to now the AI bashing. I thought we were discussing paper versus EMR. Since when was the topic AI bashing? I'm not too sure.
No, AI was the topic. So then let me come to the other part of the.
No rebutting. No. I'm sorry. No rebutting now. You will have your chance later. So so it is very interesting. So let's talk about EMR designing. So EMR designing is a challenge. Paper, you just take a sheet and start writing whatever you feel like. And with our lovely doctor's calligraphic handwriting, it is a very safe mode. I mean, even sometimes we are unable to decipher our own handwritings. So what can be safer than that? You give it to anybody, nobody would be able to make any head or tail out of it. But EMR design is a challenge, and EMR design, I have to say that it is coming up and it is becoming less challenging as people learn more. But the data accuracy can be guaranteed on EMR because you can have the provenance of the data. You can track it. Paper, you never know who has written what. And they are as unsafe as is possible, as I've already alluded, unless, of course, you consider that the handwriting is going to sort of be some sort of a data protection. And the biggest problem, the biggest challenge with the paper-based record is that you tend to lose them. And if you lose them, it's gone forever. And in our daily life, we have so many papers to maintain. If we have more additional paper to maintain, these days, even the current day and age, you have your emphasis on less paper. Just think of it, banking. Banking is extremely illustrative. I remember, I'm a dinosaur. So I remember the days when I used to line up to collect money from a teller. Today, I hardly ever go to the ATM because paper currency is very minimally used, and with all this touching and whatnot these days is becoming more and more hazardous. It is all digital, and you are doing all your banking work from the comfort of your home. Who would have thought? And security, the banking guys have watertight security. They ensure. Of course, I'm not talking about the data from the credit cards. I do not know what they do. They probably they try to cut corners. I have no idea. But I have never heard of any banking houses having a data breach where money is lost. So it can be secured, and we do know, all of us are in the digital space. We do know that we can secure the data, but we have to be able to invest in it. Somehow the investment in digital health is happening in not very focused manner, I have to say. You need to invest in the right tools. People are trying to go ahead and invest in too many areas, and where the most important one, the EMR, that is not being is being invested in. We doctors do not have the right tools. I'm yet to see a good EMR solution, something that I know for a fact that I can use in my busy practice. A few of my colleagues who do general practice and quite robust practice, they are on an average see 20 patients in the daytime and 20 patients in the evening. And on a busy day at the height of the season, they've even gone up to upwards of 100 to 150 per day. I mean, if you want to have it, want to have records kept, you need to have proper solutions provided to them. You just can't expect that the whatever that we are offering these days that would work. No, they wouldn't. So therefore, yes, there is definitely a place to invest, but EMR, without EMR, I do not see any progress that can be made. Already Supreme Court of India has come up with this comment. I was reading in the newspaper yesterday that they are now, the Supreme Court is now seriously considering whether or not to cap the prices that the private hospitals charge. So we are going to have another pressure on our income. And yes, the way that we can rationalize and we can give better care at a lesser cost, EMR is one of the definite solutions that we need to positively look at. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. I really appreciate that. And we've got 5 minutes now. I'll request any of the audience members, if you would like to please unmute yourself and state your points for the motion or against the motion before we go to the next point, which is to Dr. Supten, who will be making the next presentation. So before we do that, any of the audience members would like to chime in?
Manish, before we go there, can I just make a few points? Jotting down, I want to answer quickly, just 2 minutes.
Sure, please.
Okay. There is a tool called the audit, alcohol use disorder identification test, which is released by the World Health Organization. This is to catch alcohol paper. Till today, there is no digital version of that. Atul Gawande, the famous surgeon who came out with the checklist manifesto, came out with the checklist on paper. It's not digital. When you take paper, there is no on gadgets. It's very frustrating when you are starting surgery and you will hear people saying, "Sir, power nahi hai, server kaam nahi kar raha hai, connectivity nahi hai, laptop chalu nahi ho raha hai." You don't want to get into those kind of situations. In an ER, emergency room, my patients come in cardiac arrest. I don't want to be fumbling with a phone or a laptop at that time. I'm going to be taking care of my patient, saving his life, and capturing at that moment what I know. And that point, a paper and a pencil is all I will use. I will not be typing. I don't have the luxury of sitting and typing away on a laptop. If you look at how the space program uses technology, look closely in the space shuttle. They use a pen and paper, right? They don't use a computer to type things in. And paper gives you the capability to be very creative. I don't know how many of you know, elephants pass about 80 to 90% of the grass and the food that they eat, which is all fiber, undigested. This is cleaned up and we have beautiful elephant dung paper available, right? So you can get as creative as you want with paper. So as a closing remark, I will say paper is versatile. It is ubiquitous. It is just so easy to use. I don't think they are replacing paper anytime. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Thanga. And over to any of the audience members, I recall seeing Dr. Randeep and Parag from Doxper. I had requested either of them if you could chime in.
Sure. Yeah. Hi, everyone. This is Randeep here. Actually, I am in another call as well. So I'm actually taking 2 calls. So this was good. Yeah. Thanks for having us here. And both me and Parag from Doxper, See, I mean, we have been hearing this debate for a long time, and actually, I come from precision medicine background with all the genomics, next generation sequencing, data analysis, right? So lots of places where data has already gone digital, right? Now, see, what everybody is looking for is a digital data for AI purposes. So whether you use paper to capture the data, whether you use keyboard to capture the data, or screen and stylus, or speech to text, according to me, they are just data entry mechanisms, right? So of course doctors are comfortable. See, the thing is, I mean, I have thought of few scenarios to give, like how exactly what you perceive is good for the doctor may not be good for the doctor. So one of the things which I keep saying is, let's say if you have to book a flight ticket, then you go to Make My Trip, you book one ticket for yourself, yeah. But let's say when your travel agent has to book a ticket, he doesn't go through the same portal and the UI. So they have very specialized tools so that they can book like hundreds of tickets in a day. Now, when people think of about a doctor, they say, okay, I'll make this very shiny app with this UI, and the doctor is going to love it. So that exactly doesn't happen, because doctor is not going to use that app for a patient. He's going to use it for 30, 40, 50, or whatever in Indian scenario, depending upon the patients, he has to use it over and over again. And then it becomes a pain, because every time you have to discover new things, because of course everybody says you get the same patients, but the patients are different, and every time they have to discover new things, go to drop downs and other things, it's like a mess. So if everything was designed nicely according to the patient, and somehow magically those choices would appear on the screen and all those things, would be better. But I don't think which we have reached there. And every time new knowledge comes, they are supposed to document certain things. And the thing is, of course, doctors are up to date by reading all the journals. So I will just say the last point. So doctor in our case is a super user, and everything is in the head. He just has to replicate on the piece of paper so that the journey of the patient can start, right? I'll just stop here, just putting my views. So, I mean, we at Doxper are using paper to just capture the data, and at the back end, we convert into digital formats. Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Randeep. And before I go to Professor Supten, Ayushi, you had made certain points on the chat. Would you like to and share your point of view?
Thanks, Manish. It was an interesting debate, and I really like the point, the way we have started, and then we move towards uh, sort of a translating paper to the EMR, or looking for something which is more compatible for doctors to generate the data. My question is more about there are a few things which we say are here to say, and particularly in the recent times, you started saying that AI is here to stay. And if you look at in the healthcare, what is the opinion of the panelists about there? If you look the data on which we will train the AI models, the would panelists say that data which is there in EMR is not informed by the social cultural norms? Because we are seeing in the West, it does get informed, the race, another aspect, particularly which informs the judgment which doctors take about the Black and other race people get reflected in the data. And similar norms do exist in Indian society. So, what is the perception of when we are training the models, how that will be reflected, and how we need to counter that? So, that's one aspect where the negative part, or maybe a challenging part, comes in that regard of training the model. The other aspect where I think about is sometimes we need to see when these things are useful. So if we break down and we talk about the aspect which are more structured, and that is something people would expertise, the clinicians who are actually using in the field, maybe radiologist or a pediatrician who is using, would be able to tell where they actually need the help from the AI. So how should we go about designing the models? And coming back to a question which Dr. Gogia also said, that if any recommendation comes up, who would be held responsible if something heavy happens? So these are my questions, and I personally don't have answer. I just have these questions which keep on coming to my mind. And when you're thinking about this new technology, how we should raise issues and discuss about these. And if anyone can like talk about it, I'd be glad to hear.
Thank you, Ayushi. Can I request any of the other audience members, one more audience member we take before we go into the super over? I have two panelists waiting to present. I'll wait for a moment and then over to you, Professor Supten.
Hi, this is Bhupati from UK. I'm really been glad to participate in this meeting and to chair, to listen to all this great people. I really used to work with in India for some years and looking into the medical notes. I used to work in different hospitals, and now in UK, I'm in clinical trials. So I have great in-depth understanding of the medical notes with the different departments. So if I see that at some point of time, India is go into digitalization, like we've converted from money, banking, every sectors, we are changing that. And probably the medical notes is been really an foreseen aspect, and definitely it has a lot of advantages, as Aisha was mentioning, is the future use of this electronic or digitalization of this medical notes. It will be widely used for across the medical departments and for the patients and the corporates, and it can be helpful to investigate new medicines faster and get the medicine to the patients faster. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, please
This
go
is
ahead, Balaji.
thank you. So this is Balaji. I'm from Singapore. So it's a really great conversations. And one of the things I see, the promising future India and India's medical system holds is quite promising because of volume of patients and the volume of data that would be generated from the India context. And this is the right moment for physicians and in industry and regulators to come together and see what is the best possible way that physician-centric EMR can be created. And I did see a couple of questions related to liability, because I think I've seen the EMR practices happening in China, Korea, and also some of the Western part of the world as well. So there is not much liability per se if EMR is used, but at the same time it brings in a lot of values from the real world perspective. So I think at some point, yes, the physicians in India are very much up to date with what's happening, but a slight shift in adapting to the digital would help both patients as well as medics and industry, opening up a wide range of opportunities in India, and also it can contribute to the world.
Thanks a lot, Balaji. And now I have to go to Professor Supten. Professor Supten, over to you.
I'll be sharing my screen because I have a presentation. So, how much time do I get, Manish?
Sir, you can take your time to complete the presentation.
Yeah, how much time? 5 minutes, 55 minutes?
You have 10 minutes, sir.
Okay, fine. Actually, there was a question in the chat box about standards, and that was specifically HL7. Today afternoon, we had a brush with HL7, and I think Kumar Sattam was here attending in this meeting, but this is a different area. In fact, this is a topic that was raised by Dr. Sandeep Reddy, talking about brain-machine interface, or BMI. BMI, of course, basal metabolic index is what commonly known to the doctors. But anyway, acronyms can often confuse. That's why we need standards. The other term which is sometimes used for it is human-computer interface, or HCI. Of course, that is probably an older term. So I'm going to say just a little bit about what is it. What are the different types of standards needed for a proper brain-machine interface? and what are the international activities for standards going on in that area, and of course, take home messages, question answer. I don't think we'll have time for that today. So if we look at brain-machine interface, it's essentially a system that establishes a communication channel between a human brain, or it could even be an animal brain, and computer or an external device. So the record or stimulate the nervous system, could be central or peripheral nervous system, and that could do many things. I mean, enhancing the signals, supplementing, improving, restoring, whatever it is. So essentially, they measure the neural activity through the sensors placed inside the brain or the body, that is invasive or implanted technologies, or it could be external sensors, non-invasive. And obviously, it has to be processed in real time to extract information about the intentions or states of the subject, and then generate an action or stimulus in the external world that is provided as direct or indirect feedback to the user. So if you take this as a brain-machine interface, I'm skipping this part. Why do we need standards? I think people here are aware of it. Before going to the brain machine, if we look just at some machine or even machine software systems, this is a standard from the Personal Connected Healthcare Alliance, PCHA, which is endorsed by both ITU and WHO, the International Telecommunications Union, as well as the World Health Organization has recommended this. So if you look at the connectivity from the personal health devices to the hospital information system, through the personal gateway health and fitness service, there are multiple standards, myriads of standards working there. That could be ISO standards, IEEE standards, and of course, like Chris said, if you go to specific healthcare, HL7, DICOM, and so on are there. Because when we are talking about the devices and this Internet of Things, Internet of Medical Things, all these are huge information generators. They would push in a lot of data. So in that field, we have got standards like USB and Bluetooth, which we are somehow familiar with. But then there are various other things. When we have so many standards, and that's the good thing about standards, there are so many of them. What we really need is harmonization. So harmonization of standards will always be a problem. And that's why I particularly kept this slide here. So if we come to brain-machine interface, there also, we have to have a lot of harmonization. So currently, if you look at the standards which are available for sensing and actuation technologies, there's a lot of standards. Then there's also a lot of standards related to data management. For cybersecurity, data representations in these applications, we have a lot of them. But if we really want to get a high-level BMI, brain-machine interface, and to get into the come out of the scary aspects of the automated murders or killings and so on, we definitely need to look at this user needs and performance assessment, for which we don't yet have many established standards. There are existing standards for this human factors and usability, but they are not so much applicable directly to the brain-machine interface research and development community. So what are the standards activities going on globally? Because BMI systems are the product of integrating multiple technologies, so we have systems for acquisition and decoding the biophysical signals to actuators providing sensory and mechanical electrical feedback. Then ethical, social, and legal concerns. Ayushi raises many of these ethical and social issues. And there are also legal concerns. So there are some IEEE guidelines for ethically aligned intelligent systems. And there's also an IEEE brain neuroethics framework. So ethics, at least on paper, theoretically, is making its presence felt. In fact, my recent publication was also on the ethical aspects of AI-enabled medical technology. So ethics is definitely marking its presence. And there's the other thing, BMI standardization should also consider the regulatory frameworks for the technology-based systems, whether clinical or consumer-oriented. So artificial intelligence, Internet of Medical Things, cybersecurity, everywhere, we need to look at the regulatory, because regulations are also evolving. The technologies are evolving much faster than the regulations are in place. And of course, a particular challenge is the global disparity in the regulatory approaches. So the way the European Union looks at it, or the Americas look at it, Asian countries may not be looking at it that way. So now I'll talk about some specific work groups. So IEEE has formed a couple of work groups for this, of which this P2731, this was recently established to create a standard for unified terminology for brain-computer interfaces. This is the homepage of the IEEE standards P2731. So if you are interested, you can visit that, and those who are IEEE members can also actively involve in that. And the other working group from IEEE Standards Association is the working group P2794 for reporting standard for the in vivo neural interface, or RSNIR, serve as a framework for the comprehensive reporting of human and animal research throughout the growing ecosystem of neurotechnology. I don't know how many of you are familiar with this term, but neurotechnology is also establishing itself as a discipline. This is the page for that P2794, and you can visit and have a look at things. So what are the take-home messages? We saw the definition, the BMI or HCI, whatever we call, establishes a direct communication channel between a human or animal brain and a computer external device. Currently, we have well-established sensing and actuation technologies. So some of the standards are like this, IEEE 214511 2010. Then you have network-capable application processor information. For data management standards, we have from ISO and JTC. One, there's a SC32, which cover the aspects for cybersecurity and data representation in medical applications. But as I said, the system level aspects of BMI, like user needs and performance assessment, this is an area, an open area, where it needs a lot of work to be done. I think some of us may get interested and join the bandwagon there to really evolve proper standards for enabling and enhancing the brain-machine interface. So that's all from my end. Thank you. And if you have questions, over to Manish for further.
Thank you, Doctor. Over to you, Dr. Avinash.
Thank you, sir. I'm sharing my slide. Is it visible?
Yes.
Thank you. So my topic is digital health records for medical education. And I'm a medical student currently active with user-driven healthcare network. It is network of medical students and professors where we tackle clinical problems and try to solve complex patient issues. So this way we do patient-centered learning, and we use digital health records on a daily basis. So patient health records can be are part of medical education, as students learn how to gather data from patients, create questions around it, research on those questions, maybe online or from their textbook, and then use their research questions to make a solution. It not necessarily be a treatment plan, but it can also be an innovation. And then share their experience as a case report or a research report. Now, when digital health records, these health records are digitized, then access, sharing, analysis, and learning is more easy. But what we are doing is we de-identify these case records and share globally. So global access, global sharing, and even others can analyze our case records, the patient data, and contribute to it. And we this way engage in case-based blended learning. So this is how we do it. First, we take informed consent from the patient to share the de-identified data. Then we prepare the case record, the history. It may also be in narrative form as a patient story. Here we discover the problem patient have, and then we de-identify all this data. We share this data with questions we have around the current patient problems and discuss to learn and solve the real challenges, not only the book. And all data available globally for helping similar cases. So if any similar case and someone Google search, it will come as our blogs. as our learning portfolio. And hopefully someday AI will also go through these blogs and maybe learn to help similar cases. So I will show one example here. So this is a 70-year-old man with a neck mass, and you can see basic history. Patient is in patient own words, I was fine, I had no problems till 4 months, and like that. Then you can see also the images, digital data, and this all is de-identified. All de-identifier date, everything is removed. And then at the bottom you can see we have discussed around the case, around the queries we got to tackle in real time. And then while doing this, we are creating knowledge from individual patient and adding to our learning portfolio. So this blog is my learning portfolio. Similarly, many students are having this. And the learning portfolio, once and the learning portfolio when shared globally, they add to the available knowledge of RCTs and systematic review and all. And the cycle continues to improve current research-based system. So this is a paper record, and you can see lots of data we have collected, and we are using this analysis to provide better to the patient. Here is one part of it, a fever chart. Using AI, we have got some data out, and this is a digital fever chart. So paper, digital, we are always doing all this to find how we can provide better to the patient. Some more example, like here is a diabetes data visualization, and even on medication, we can see when there was spike in this patient, very high fever value. This is some hypertension data and lots of drug to this patient. But because of this visualization, we could precisely monitor and modify the dosing and do better for this patient. This is a wearable data from a patient, and we can see her sleep was disturbed. And with other history, we can again do something actionable. There are direct to consumer genetic analysis tests on that we have analyzed. These are all student work. I'm only sharing my work currently in these case resources, but other student work is also available online openly. So this is a genomic data analyzed using CleanWire and all. Then bridging research and practice together. So practice, research, and education, these all are part in evidence-based medicine system. This is evidence pyramid, evidence-based triad. So first, whenever we have a patient or a problem in a population, then we plan for some intervention. We compare that intervention with a placebo and find the outcome. But when we are not adding data from all the patient, many case records, many such case portfolios, then we are losing lots of knowledge in this process. And these case records help to find them. This is website bedside clinical decision support system. So again, we use various site PubMed and research to solve the clinical queries, and we add all those queries in our case blogs. And then those case blogs here are used for one day education at college, medical college. And then they also go to journal publication. Thank you. If any question, you can ask.
Thanks a lot, Dr. Avinash. And I really appreciate both Professor Supten and Avinash. They are experts from both the sides of the spectrum. One has many years of enabling digital health in India, and another one is an up-and-coming rookie, so to speak, but not a rookie actually, really good at his stuff. So really appreciate both of you. This is one of the times where it appears the knowledge is filling the time. So before I come in the way of Dr. Sandeep, over to you, Dr. Sandeep, for closing remarks. You could, take it away, please.
Thanks, Manish. I feel like I'm a dwarf standing on the shoulder of giants, being part of this event where we have very veteran health informaticians here and being engaged in a discussion with them. So 2 years ago, we set up the AI in Healthcare forum, basically to allow for constructive discussion of AI topics and in the context of Indian healthcare system. And after 3 years, we are holding this live event. So I'm really, really proud and privileged to be here today. Firstly, I would like to thank my fellow panelists in the debate, Dr. Prabhu and Dr. Gogia, and my Dr. Bhattacharya, who was with me in terms of defending digital health systems, electronic health records, and AI systems. I will leave it to the audience to decide the outcome of the debate. But I also would like to thank Dr. Sarbadhikari for talking about standards in brain medical interfacing. I think there's a growing interest in the topic. So I would like to thank Dr. Sarbadhikari for enlightening us in that area. I'd also like to thank Avinash for talking about utilization of digital resources in medical education, again, and growing interest in that area. So thanks, Avinash, for that. But it would go remiss not to thank Dr. Piyush Mathur and Manish Sharma for organizing this event and bringing us together. As I said earlier, it's been 2 years since we have had an event, and this is really, really great way to end the year, but also to have this wonderful discussion. Before we conclude the event, I would like to share one more collaborative product that has come out of this forum. If I may able to get 2 minutes, I will share something here. So just like this event coming out of the forum, we also had another product that came out of this forum, which is this book, which I had a privilege of editing. I just want to quickly highlight some of the important topics that were covered in this book. So firstly, the authors came from across the world, including the United States, Australia, UK, Spain, and Chile, and India, obviously, and the United Arab Emirates. There were multiple institutions involved. Because of the interest of time, I won't go into the institutions, but I do want to highlight that 80% of the authors were medical doctors, and the remaining were covered by academics and industry professionals. In terms of the topics itself, I'll quickly race through the topics, but starting off with a chapter authored by myself, where I introduce the term algorithmic medicine. In that chapter, I talk about AI, the different categories of AI, and how AI gets applied in healthcare. And then it's followed by a couple of chapters which comment about whether clinical artificial intelligence is a technology application or change management, and a recent chapter about knowledge management in a learning health system, followed by a debate about the need for artificial empathy. I think some of the questions that came from the audience was talking about that particular topic. And then there are many review chapters, including a lengthy review about use of artificial intelligence in the treatment of chronic diseases and use of artificial intelligence in drug discovery. There's also a chapter, lengthy review of how artificial intelligence gets used in breast cancer management. And the other review chapters include my fellow panelists today, Dr. Piyush Mathur, who and his authors, co-authors, who talk about using artificial intelligence in perioperative quality and patient safety. Another forum member, Dr. Vidur Mahajan, and his colleague, Dr. Vasant Gopal, talk about audit of artificial intelligence algorithm, its impact in relieving shortage of specialist doctors, especially as it pertains to India. Another forum member, Dr. Johnson Thomas, reviews how artificial intelligence gets used in thyroidology. It's not just enough to have review chapters. We also have multiple case studies coming from authors' own experience or research projects, including Mark Trail, who is a radiologist based on the United States, who talks about a product that's used for screening breast cancer. And then we have Dinesh and Dharmendra from here from Australia, talking about use of deep learning to detect and diagnose skin cancers. And Juan and his colleagues from Spain introduce a framework for the implementation of clinical data science and how it gets applied in their hospital. And the case studies about use of stochastic optimization non-linear model in ambulance logistic management coming from Chile. And then we have Zotong Wu and his colleagues from here from Melbourne talking about use of transfer learning in terms of enhancing amenorrhea status prediction in cancer and fertility data. And then there's a chapter about use of deep learning for macular degeneration severity prediction by Dwari, who is based out of Abu Dhabi, United Arab Emirates. So this was the first edition with a release. It's already been released, but the official release date is in 2021. And now we are working towards a second edition that's we're planning for 2023 release. So if you are interested in this book, this book is already available, as I mentioned, both in print and e-editions. You just have to go to the Routledge website to purchase this book. Right now, there's a 20% off inbuilt into the book. So that's really it. Finally, I would like to thank the audience for patiently participating in the discussion. Hopefully you got something out of this and encourage you to continue to attend ongoing events that may come out of this forum. Thank you all. Manish, over to you.
Thanks a lot, Dr. Sandeep. So before we close for the day, thanks again. I'll echo Dr. Sandeep's words in terms of thanks a lot for the audience joining us. And I'll request you all to, if you would like to stay on for another 5 minutes, say hello to each other and have chai, pe charcha, so to speak, any points that you would like to state. I would have missed out during our scheduled time that we had. You're most welcome to please chime in your points of view and your insights.
Manish, I think I'm going to start off and say like it was an amazing discussion, and I think both the sides batted and bowled very well, and I think it was great to hear viewpoints in the chat from many of the audience members. I think both of the teams made very strong points, and I don't think it's a binary issue. I don't think it's one versus another. And from the human side of it, we need to figure out what works best for us, and what works best is not necessarily just a question of one thing. You know, there are many cars out there, as people were talking about different types of cars, and everybody prefers driving a different car for their own reason. There are many differences in our workflows, whether it's in Australia or US or in India. So I think the main question in my mind, and from the point that is repeatedly made to me by Dr. Frank Pepe, who's the co-founder of BrainX, is what's your strategy? And I think that's at the forefront of everything. It's not necessarily about the data. It's not necessarily as much about AI, but it's more about the strategy. How do you want to deliver healthcare? And then you apply your strategy, whether it's your voice to text, whether it's just paper, whether it is EMR, that follows that. But the first question is, what's your strategy to deliver best possible care to the patients? I think there were great points made today. We all have to figure out our own strategy and see and learn from each other. So I think those are some of the thoughts I took away from this meeting. And thank you, everyone.
Hi, this is Satyam. Can I ask a question?
Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi, this is Satyam, and it's a newbie question. So if somebody has to get started on AI, and so where do we get started? Because I see a lot of resources, a lot of courses available, but it gets overwhelming. So any ways where we can get started from point A to say, get the alphabets done, and then we can figure out how to read the book. Any help in that way? How to get started on AI and ML?
I think Dr. Gogia raised his hand. He had some thoughts. Dr. Gogia, you're on mute.
Yeah, sure. So actually, very good question, Kumar. First of all, of course, the book is there, and I'm also looking forward to read it. I don't know whether we get a slightly discounted copy because of this or not, but we'll definitely pay for it if required. That's not the issue. But the one thing which really came to mind was that Abhishek Chaudhary is not there in this panel. He is running a series of training lectures and series for a long time on his blog and all called, and he runs a company called IAI. I've happened to be part of it under this project Vikram, and they have done some great work. They've been awarded also. So Abhishek, I think you're in the Kumar. You're in Bangalore. You're in Bangalore. No? You're on. So Abhishek Chaudhary from Hyderabad has done some good work, and I'm sure he can give you. And he tried to train me also, but I'm maybe past the age of learning. Maybe he decided so that. So just to answer your specific question.
I would just want to make a point about where to get started. The question is, again, goes back to your strategy. Like, what is it that you're trying to accomplish? And I boil it down to three different ways. Not everybody needs to learn programming, right? Not everybody needs to write software. So where do you start? I think where you start with is looking at the resources that are available and what suits your purpose. And the basic minimum that, in my opinion, people need to understand, and we've written about it, is being able to interpret the literature out there. Because if you can't do that, if you can't read and interpret that literature, then it's very hard to move on. It's fine, you can program something, you can write some nice codes or other things, but you should be able to read and interpret the literature and understand the keywords and understand some of those techniques, and also realize that it's a science in evolution. Both healthcare and AI are sciences in evolution. So you have to understand that if you are going to move in that direction, you'll have to keep pace with that. It's not a one-time event that I learned programming, I learned AI. It's not a static thing. So that strategy is very important. Sometimes the best strategy might be that I don't want to learn coding or programming, rather I'm going to collaborate, just like a lot of us do, with others and use their wisdom. And everybody cannot be expert in everything. So I think you start off with defining what is it that you want to achieve. And at minimum, you want to be able to read and interpret the literature well. That's just my opinion about it.
Yeah, Manish, this is Pramod here. Can I make a couple of points?
Sir, please, sir.
Okay. Manish, firstly, I have to say I was a bit confused in this session because I thought this was actually a debate of paper versus digital. Maybe I got it wrong. Okay. And the reason I thought that was a very relevant topic is because that is the issue we face. It is not a question of 50-50, 20. It is a question of 90% of doctors in India do not use digital in any form. Any form. Okay. And they are averse to it because of reasons. Part of the debate I was hoping for was what are the reasons that they may have an issue with adoption of at least trying, even if it is 50% paper, 50% digital, most happy. That is one question which we have to start with, because from there only comes all the rest. You need water to flow in the canal before you can start having irrigation or dams or whatever, right? So one of the sessions I am hoping for sometime in the future, and maybe it should be a session which has a paper-based doctors on one side versus us digital health champion on the other, where we have this debate going to and fro. There are many reasons. There are many sort of the change management and why they have concerns. There are many reasons for that. We have to debate those and hear their side of it. For example, definitely the aspect of the fact that more monitoring or more having a look into what they are doing is possible when they go digital. There's no doubt about it. If you have a nurse in the IP, her supervisor sitting in her office can have a look at what all she's putting in. How long is she taking between measuring the BP and actually putting it into the system, right? So anyway, these are the sort of aspects which we have to look at and also understand. When a primary care doctor who's got patients sitting all around his table, not sitting or standing, literally banging the table all around his table, refuses to take out anything digital and use, right? So somewhere down the line, we have to start with that debate, which I thought was what probably today was going to start with, but maybe I was wrong. But I think sometime in the future, we have to look at that. That's it. Thank you.
Absolutely, Dr. Pramod, resonate your points, and hopefully in the future we'll, as our subsequent conversations, the first of many, and knowing where you're coming from and the points which you make, we'll enable these discussions as well. I'll welcome anybody else to, as well, other participants, to please unmute yourself.
Manish, can I give a comment? I'm Jyoti
Sir, please,
here.
sir. Please, sir.
Yeah. See, I'll just give, it was a very interesting debate, and I just give an analogy from FinTech, which is very relevant for whatever was discussed today. Sometime in 2011, in the UK, federal authorities decided that the checks are not being used regularly. It is decreasing, and the media electronic payments are getting more. So they decided that 2018 that will be the sunset of checks, and it was agreed that by 2018 the clearing houses will go away, and there will be no check clearing. But somewhere in 2018, they again came back. They said, no, it will be continued indefinitely till the time people still use the checks. So on the one hand, the strides have been made on the digital banking. It is totally transformed banking, as we all know. But still, the federal authorities have allowed that, yes, the checks will continue till the time people really use it. So they have to co-live both the things, and we have to actually see how we can take the paper inputs also for our modeling of our AI and ML models. That's what I just wanted to say. In healthcare. Thanks.
Thanks a lot, sir.
Well, I'll just say that we can probably spend a lot more time and keep on having our chai boiling, but I think we need to end this now. We'll definitely have future sessions where we can all get together, and the technology is now not paper, but technologies now have evolved to support these kind of discussions and exchange of ideas. So thank you again, everyone, for joining. Thank you to the panelists. Thank you to all the moderators and the speakers, and look forward to having more future sessions from this great group. Take care.